Hi, all. We welcome you to day 2 of the Intrapreneurship Conclave. Thank you for joining us today. Let's do a quick recap of day 1. We began with an insightful keynote by Ravi Arora on the journey of an entrepreneur from generating to monetizing ideas and the pitfalls along the way. He emphasized on Dare to Try and how organizations can behave like venture capitalists for internal incubation of ideas. He also gave insightful examples from the Tata Group. We then had the leadership roundtable with 4 cross-industry leaders from SAP Labs, MetLife Global, Manipal Healthcare, and a former ITC executive who discussed the lessons they learned over the last year, the challenges they navigated, and the renewed business case for entrepreneuring in the context of today. The leaders advised organizations to harness the potential of their workforce and provide a safety net to experiment and ideate. The conversation was followed by a passionate discussion on the emerging cultural imperatives and how can organizations include and lead with diversity of thinking by 4 dynamic women leaders representing WPP, Morgan Stanley, Schneider Electric, and Cisco. They defined diversity of thinking as a respect for diverse perspectives, being sensitive to diverse talent segments, and the need for ideas to be nurtured through spaces for experimentation and problem solving. We had an evolved fireside chat with Dr. Ramanathan playing the dual role for Niti Aayog and TCS. He strongly endorsed the need for entrepreneurship during these times and advocated the need for building creative thinking in educational institutes to build the entrepreneurial mindset. Finally, the day was rounded with a masterclass by Vivaswan Shastri from Cisco. How can one build on strengths for enhancing one's innovation capability with emphasis on yearning, rapid learning, excellence, flow, and satisfaction? The day today is strongly focused on building the founder's mindset through expert-led sessions, narratives from dynamic founders that are both emerging and have started up. We will also look at the role digital plays as a key lever as the new world emerges from the pandemic. Let me quickly show you the agenda and what you can expect from day 2. So post this, we have the keynote by Mr. Rabindra Shinkantan, and he will talk about the role of digital. That's followed by an expert-led session by Professor Suresh from IIM Bangalore. We will build on the narrative of how founders' mindsets can build with 3 powerful stories. And we have 2 showcase practices, a segment on ideas exchange, and closing with the masterclass by SAP Labs. Another very, very interesting day. It's a day that is strongly focused on building the mindset as entrepreneurs and leading as practitioners and building the skills for the future. So I warmly welcome you for day 2. Another exciting and engaging day with you. Thank you. Hi, Mr. Shikantan. A warm welcome to you, sir.
Good afternoon. Thank you.
Good afternoon, and we're looking forward to your keynote. So let me quickly introduce, the focus for the keynote. In a world more profoundly and digitally connected, how do we leverage technology to build a culture of ideation? Digital transformation is not just the future, it is happening right now and is changing the face of industries and functions. How can entrepreneurs help their organization use today's tools for a better tomorrow? And how does this transformation democratize the way a company innovates? I warmly extend, this session and a warm welcome to Mr. Rabindra Srikantan. He's an entrepreneur, founded ASM Technologies Limited, engineering and R&D company focused on high-tech software and automotive. He's charter member of TIE, mentoring and investing in startups in the US and India. and he's also leads the IT panel for CII Karnataka. Uh, a quick fun fact, he's involved in motorsports through his son Akhil Rabindra, who is a professional car driver. So, warm welcome to you and a privilege to have you with us, and looking forward to your session today.
Thank you very much, Pooja. Good afternoon to everybody. I hope everybody can hear me well. Am I clearly audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, perfect. So thank you, Pooja, again for having me over and for this keynote on powering entrepreneurship through digital transformation. And first of all, I think the best example we have is yourself and this event. From what I understand, the last 2 years, it was, I'm sure you had in-person meetings, going and meeting speakers, sponsors, probably delegates, probably an in-person meeting. The whole thing, you pulled it off digitally, and yesterday has gone off the day one. Yesterday has gone off so well, and hopefully today also will be as good, if not better. So that itself is a very good example of how you have ideated and pulled this event so successfully. So what I will do is, I spoke to Pooja and the team a couple of times and kind of understood what the whole theme was. So I will talk about some of my personal experiences within my company and working with other startups, and talk a little bit about what's happening in the tech world, which I'm guessing is quite familiar to a lot of people, and then also talk about non-tech world, which is contact based. There's a physical aspect to life. It's not you have to do with the physical world, and how does one innovate, ideate using the digital tools for digital transformation. So this kind of the broad contours. So pick about maybe 4 5 sectors, and in between we have a couple of slides and videos just to sort of get the point across, and something a little more fun when you look at the videos, and then see how does one innovate on what you see in the video, and talk about that. And if we have some time left, definitely would love to answer any questions if they come up. So first of all, quickly talk about tech. I think all of us have been digitized. I mean, much, much faster, quicker than what we ever thought in the last 12 months. I think the sheer pace of digitization is probably 5 or 10 times quicker than what it was, say, 12, 14 months ago. And in the tech world or in our day-to-day world, we're all using Teams, WebEx, Zoom, Slack, all these great tools. We're having even this platform we're using for this event. We're able to host. I mean, these platforms can extend where you can have conferences, you can have booths, you can have interactions, you can have lounge, you can network, you can do a lot of things. I think there are plenty of these tools which have come, and as we all know, tech industry, whether it is product companies or even services companies, have continued to event far more and far more rapidly than pre-pandemic. And given the situation where no one is traveling, you're not able to do a lot of things. I think we've all in the tech world have innovated much more, where you're seeing the results that all revenues have grown, market caps are at an all-time high, whether it's in US, Europe, India, anywhere. So I think tech-wise, we are very covered. There are tons of tools available to innovate, and this is work. Now, let's move quickly to slightly non-tech world, where there has always been physical contact, say manufacturing, could be retail, could be engineering, these kind of industries, which you cannot sit away and then just do everything from remote. There is a physical world, there is a real world where you can do some of it digitally, but you have to go and deal with the physical world. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how does one innovate in that kind of a world. So one very interesting example is the retail or fashion world. So this interestingly used to be typically from what I understand, is about an 18-month cycle where people would go to these fashion shows in person to Paris and Milan or New York and all these fancy places, pre-plan, set up meetings, meet their buyers, sellers, trendsetters, try to spot trends, and between these events have different ways of going and finding out trends and so on. And then once they come back, let's say from an Indian perspective, they would again host another event where they would call their customers. It's again maybe 150 people for 3 4 days. It's again very physical. Then they would have these shows and entertainment, and then they would sign up deals, right? So what has happened in the last 12 months? Of course, that industry took a bit of a beating initially, But post that, there have been a number of digital tools which have been accelerated. One is the whole design, which was already on 2D patterning and 3D and so on, definitely got accelerated, where the design aspect got digitized very quickly. Then the thing came about, how do you spot trends? In the past, people would actually go to stores, watch behavior, customer behavior, and so on. Then the very, very clever tools like things like there's a tool called Clo from Korea. And this is apparently done so well. And look at some of their videos and the kind of customer acceptance they have, where they are able to take this entire product life cycle, including from the 3D design and so on, fabric selection, how it pleats, how it folds, and how it sits on somebody, all the different aspects of that, and has digitized this entire process, where this 18-month cycle is now reduced to 6 months. And they're able to very quickly ideate, come up with quick fashions based on whatever trends are happening, and then try out, say, 200, 300, 400 pieces in a very short turnaround. And depending on that acceptance, they're able to step up volumes and so on, and react to specific trends or seasons or demand. So this, I thought, is where there's a lot of digitization, and this industry has come back. And they're also probably not spending as much of their marketing cost or so on, and doing all these very, very expensive physical events, which I'm sure will come back in due course. But they've been able to pull through using digital tools, and definitely a very good example. Another example, again, is of course the medical world, which we are all used to. In the past, we were all used to physically going and meeting a physician, or going to a nursing home or a hospital, or a clinic. And definitely the early part of the lockdown, I think nobody ever wanted to go to a hospital unless there was a very dire need. So things like online consultation, again, there are a number of tools which have come up. I think these tools are both in India and overseas, where consultation has gone digital, pharmacy has gone digital, and post consultation, there's still some digital aspects to it. And there is a physical part of actually going to a hospital when it is really required, like there is some kind of a procedure or so on. And looks like what is going on, even going forward, is people would continue to be, what they say, digital first in the medical world, because everybody's gotten so used to it. They're able to send reports much before the consultation, and then after the first consultation is when there would be a choice of whether you continue digitally or take the physical path. So this is another industry, apart from whatever else is happening in the pharmacy world and in the medical world, both in terms of medicines and equipment, has been digitized in a very, very big way. And the whole innovation, whether it's startups, entrepreneurs, intrapreneurs in this space, I think has expanded many-fold in the last 12 to 14 months. This is another example which came to my mind. The other area is sports. So sports pretty much was all closed. I mean, a lot of sports were rescheduled, and wherever there were sports, they had things like closed stadiums, including some of the cricket matches where people were not allowed in. It was just the players and the support staff, whether it was cricket or tennis and so on. Then what has come up during this phase is, whether it's gaming or esports, that has come up in such a big way in the last 14 months, and accelerated, and looks like it's here to stay. And there are companies like game.tv, BlueStacks, and so on, who've done so well. And I think they've hosted maybe 650, 700,000 tournaments. So anybody can host a tournament. Anybody can think of a esport, come up with that, create an audience, create a following. And these kind of platforms are available to get going. And definitely through the lockdown, I think a lot of people were confined. They needed some kind of recreation. So this is another thing where we've seen massive innovation happen, massive ideation happen, where this industry has taken off, and it's here to stay. Even now, when there is physical sports, it's there's enough esports, like whether it's a Dream 11 or any. There are a lot of these digital aspects to sports which have now come up, which was probably not there about 18 months ago. So it looks like this will continue. And just about every sport now has a fair amount of digital or esports, including competitive tournaments, people, the competitive sports persons. There is prize money, there is audience, and so on. So that's another massive revolution which has happened. And then the other area which we work relatively closely is the engineering space, where typically complex engineering, or what we call extreme engineering, where there is a complex equipment or a complex machine, which historically, you had to do touch and feel and work around it, and many teams all over the world would work. And these are very high value equipment, which it's not possible to just do it digitally or remotely. That there was always this aspect of physical contact. I'm just going to run a few slides to set the context for that, and then talk about what is happening in that world, because in our experience, that has been the highest impact in terms of digital transformation. Very high value, very complex design, lot of ideation, very long product cycle, very long life cycle, because it's so expensive, and you have to constantly keep improving that. The ideation is done on a daily basis. Keep innovating. Even if you have to fix this while it's on the field, you need to work on it. It's not easy to just point out and say this is what should be done. So let me just start with a couple of slides and a couple of videos, and after each one I will just give a certain context to it. So Vinay, if you could just pull up the first slide, please. So I'm just going to use this as a reference, since Pooja explained that the fun fact, we're definitely interested in motorsports, been into this for the past 10 years. We officially sponsor this Aston Martin car in Europe and US, and that coincidentally is my son, who is a professional race car driver, and he's with Aston Martin. So I'm going to talk about what happens with an expensive, complex equipment like this in real life. What are the extreme situations it's put through, and how would one work on this in terms of improvements or whatever one wants to do. So I'm also using this because a lot of other things which one could talk about are very IP protected, and it's very difficult to bring them up as examples and talk about them. So I thought I will use something which is already in public domain, and we are associated as a reference for this. Next, please. Go ahead, please. The next one.
Yeah, I mean, nobody over here had ever heard of Akhil Rabindra before yesterday, but he made a mark yesterday. He was second or third quick in one of the practice sessions for the 23-year-old, originally from Bangalore in India, but now makes his home in Coventry in England. And he's taking full advantage of the wet weather conditions he's encountered in England over the last 5 or 6 years.
Went to university in Scotland at Edinburgh, so he'll know all about slippery conditions, the cobbled streets of Edinburgh. Always difficult to find grip on, whether you're walking or driving, and certainly having ridden a motorbike up there, it's very interesting indeed. Leading pair then, separated by 1.8 seconds the last time they went through. They're coming to us again now, as I watch them come past me and cross the line now. Now who? Yeah, it's down to 8/10. That was a full second gain, and Rabindra's on the flasher.
Yeah, thank you. So the point we're trying to make, it's a fun video, is that this is extreme in terms of what this particular equipment does. We're talking in terms of materials engineering, we're talking carbon fiber, carbon, all kinds of very lightweight material going through very high temperatures. And this is very dynamically changing, where you have to do something during the day, between events and so on. So that's an example where they have to deal with the weather and things like that. So that was the purpose of the video. Next one, please, Vinay.
Your career progression, and 120 minutes, the Fox Factory 120 with Akhil Rabindra on driver's right in the white Aston Martin Vantage. Where does he press the loud pedal? Answer now. And Prior tries to go with him, and he's on the defend on the inside. It looks like Owen Trinkler's got the best run from the second row and goes down the inside. He'll go up to second. Prior muscled down, and now then that car, the 39 car, is unleashed. The starting driver was telling me earlier on, Tyler McMurray, he's only done
In that number 39 Audi, and now it's on race with Charlotte.
That should do, Vinay.
Alessandro and the rest.
Thank you. So again, a different environment, just to show that this is like 35, 40 cars. It's all of them are very, very heavily engineered. Nothing is standard. Everything is very custom. There's all these different things. What you see there are going through a lot of dynamic innovation, on the fly innovation, every day, every hour as they perform. Next one, please, Vinay. Yeah, next one. That should do, Vinay. Thank you. So this is another example of how intense the environment is. If you see, there's this crash, and people have to recover from that. So these are all little fun videos, mainly talk about complexity and so on. So I have one more video where we will see how do we deal with this digitally. So Vinay, if you can just go to the last part one, please. We can skip this one. Vinay, the next one, please. Yeah. Yeah, this is telling about how one would deal with a complex equipment. This is what we call as a digital twin. So typically a real model, very realistic, very accurate, is made of this equipment, where people can collaborate from different parts of the world, different locations, different aspects. And what has happened in this world, again, in the past 18 months, is accelerated VR, virtual reality, where people could actually collaborate on this. They can go below this, around it, flip it around, deal with that on a very accurate system. And more recently, there have been a fair amount of mixed reality also, which is being used for dealing with this complex design. And one of the recent tools, which is, a lot of this work traditionally has been built on things like Unity and so on, and using the different glasses like, Google glasses and so on. Off late, there's been a very interesting product from Microsoft called Microsoft Mesh, which is doesn't seem to be super expensive and very, very useful. And what we have also seen is, while we are dealing with this kind of complexity, which is in the physical world, and then we try to collaborate in the digital world, looks like this kind of collaboration will only increase, given also if we add the aspect of geopolitical issues, of people not being able to travel to some of the countries for different reasons, not just because of the current situation. There may be some other reasons, especially geopolitical, where they can't travel. But we have these huge equipment, expensive equipment, which need to be looked after, upgraded, whether it's within a company or you're trying to build something new, and you probably will not be able to travel there as much as one would, and in some cases probably not at all. And question is, how do we continue innovating and ideating in that kind of a physical world with a digital twin? And so those are some of the challenges, I think, which still need to be solved. And we see a lot of usage and adaptation of the virtual reality and mixed reality going forward, especially from what we've been doing. So these are some very broad thoughts which I thought I could share with all of you. And if anybody has some questions, be very happy to take them on the chat box. There are no questions. Thank you all very much. And thank you again, Pooja and the team at Unfold for this opportunity. So hope this was something useful to
Thank
set
you,
context
Indra.
for
It was good to start on this high voltage car race journey and lessons from there. So thank you for tying this up so visually. The questions are going to be open to the audience because each of these sessions are getting pre-recorded. So if we have more questions, we will feed them into you, through by email and then have it sent back to the audience.
Sure, sounds good.
Thank you. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
very much. Thank
And
you
do
so
join
much.
us as you can for the other sessions. The links have been sent to you, so do join us as your time permits.
Thank you so much, Pooja, again. And all the
Thank
best for the rest of the day.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Take care. Bye-bye.
So we get into Zoom now.